Property usability explained: why features don't tell the entire story. One of the most interesting things about helping people buy property for a long time is that I've noticed something. Intelligent buyers sometimes make disappointing property decisions. Not because they didn't gather enough information. Most of the time they have plenty of information. They knew the acreage. They knew the square footage. They knew the number of bedrooms. They knew the price. They knew whether it was waterfront or had a view, whether there was a garage or a pole barn or a finished basement. The problem was not that they missed the features. The problem was that one or two features quietly became the whole decision. This is one of the great illusions of property. The idea that more features or better features automatically mean a better property decision. Sometimes they do, but not always. A feature is an observation. It is not yet a judgment. And over the years, I have become convinced that many property disappointments happen because buyers stop evaluating too soon. Today, I want to share a simple way of thinking about property that has gradually changed how I evaluate almost every property I visit. Features are observations. Most of us naturally compare property by feature. This home has more bedrooms. That one has more acreage. This one has better waterfront. That one has lower taxes. This one has more square footage. Those are legitimate observations. They matter. Acreage matters. Waterfront matters. Square footage matters. Price matters. Taxes matter. The mistake is not noticing those things. The mistake is assuming those things explain the property by themselves. Because features tell us what is present. They do not necessarily tell us what is possible, and that distinction matters. Observation is not judgment. Here's a simple example. Acreage is an observation. 10 acres tells you how much land is there, but buildability is an interpretation. It asks how much of that land can actually support a house, a driveway, a septic system, a pole barn, a garden, or whatever the buyer is trying to create. Then comes the real judgment. Does this property support the life the person is trying to build? Those are three different levels: observation, interpretation, judgment. A lot of buyers collect observations. Fewer buyers slow down long enough to interpret what those observations actually mean. And that is where better buyer property decisions start. Property usability. This is what I think of as property usability. Property usability is not another feature to add to a checklist. It is a way of understanding that checklist. It asks, what will this property actually allow someone to do? Not just on the closing day, but over time, in real life, with the responsibilities, limitations, costs, maintenance, access, family needs, future plans, and trade-offs that come with ownership. That is a very different question than simply asking what the property has. Example 1. Vacant land. Imagine you are comparing two 10-acre parcels. Both are zoned correctly, both have road access, both are priced similarly. On paper, they may look almost identical, but what if one parcel has wetlands, or poor soils, or steep topography, or only one small buildable envelope? Or one requires infrastructure before construction can even begin. The acreage did not change. The observation stayed the same, but the meaning of the acreage changed once you understand what the land would actually allow. That is property usability at its core. Not how much land is there, how much of the land works to serve your needs. Example 2, waterfront. The same thing happens with waterfront property. Two homes, both may have 100 feet of Lake Michigan frontage. Both might have beautiful views. Both might have great beaches. Both might look incredible in the listing photos. But one has easy access to the water, the other sits behind a very steep bluff. One has room for future improvements. The other has setbacks, stairway issues, access limitations, or redevelopment constraints. In this example, the frontage did not change, but the ownership experience did. That is why I often say the market rewards frontage, ownership rewards usability. Frontage is an observation. Waterfront usability is an interpretation. Whether the property can support the way someone wants to live on the water is the judgment. Those are not the same thing. Example 3, downsizing. I see the same pattern with downsizing. Many people assume a smaller home automatically means a simpler or cheaper life. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it does not. A smaller home may mean less maintenance, but it could also mean higher property taxes after the purchase, higher association dues, special assessments, less storage, fewer parking options, pet restrictions, rental restrictions, or less flexibility for family visits. The square footage changed, but the ownership pattern changed too. So the better question is not simply, is this home smaller? The better question is, will this next property actually function better for the life that I am now entering into? That is a usability question. Why buyers miss this? I think buyers miss this because features are easy to compare. Bedrooms, bathrooms, acreage, price, waterfront, taxes. Those are visible. Those are right in front of you. Those can be counted. They fit neatly into a search filter, but ownership is not experienced one feature at a time. Let me repeat that. Ownership is not experienced one feature at a time. Ownership is experienced as a whole. A property may have the right features and still create the wrong ownership experience for you as a particular buyer. Or it may look kind of modest on paper, but quietly work very well for the person buying it. That is why information by itself is not enough. You still have to interpret that information. So, what to do differently? So the next time you walk a property, try slowing down before deciding whether a feature is good or bad. Ask, what does this feature actually allow me to do? What constraints come with it? Does it support the way that I intend to use the property? And will it still support that use 5 or 10 years from now? What other parts of the property have to work for this feature to matter? That last question is important. What other parts of the property have to work for this feature to matter? Acreage may matter only if it can be accessed, built on, drained properly, serviced, and maintained. Waterfront may matter only if it can be reached, used, maintained, and enjoyed over time. A smaller home may matter only if the new ownership pattern is actually easier, not just smaller. Features matter, but they are not self-interpreting. Better questions. Over time, I have found myself asking different questions. Not just how many acres are there, but how many of those acres actually work. Not just how much waterfront, how many front feet, but how usable is the waterfront? Not just how many bedrooms, but does this home support the next stage of my life? Not just what are the taxes today, but how will ownership actually behave after purchase? Those questions tend to produce better decisions because they move the buyer from observation toward judgment. Property is about capability. I think this is one of the biggest mistakes buyers can make. Stop evaluating property primarily on its characteristics and start evaluating it by its capability. Can it support your family? Can it support retirement? Can it support future improvements? Can it support a garden, a workshop, a rental plan, a boat, a caregiver, visiting grandchildren, aging in place, or a quieter daily life? And can it keep supporting those things as life changes? That is not a technical checklist. That is a real ownership question. A property is not just something you buy. It is something you live inside of, maintain, adapt to, and make decisions through over time. So the question is not simply, what does this property have? The better question is, what will this property actually allow me to do over time in real life? Final thought. After helping buyers for many years, I do not think the goal is simply to become better at comparing properties. I think the goal is to become better at understanding them, because the best property decisions are usually not made by the person who notices the most features. They are made by the person who understands what those features actually mean. Features tell you what the property has. Usability tells you whether it can support the life you are actually trying to build. If you want to explore this idea a little bit further, I have written a companion article on property usability, and throughout this channel I will continue applying this way of thinking to waterfront property, vacant land, downsizing, short-term rentals, and many other property decisions people face over time.